in navigating loss, we've talked about different circumstances that you may be experiencing that has brought you to a place of loss, and it's not necessarily death. Could be family illness, job loss, financial loss, loss of a pet, or other life-altering situations. So when you are going through loss, we have to look at how we are connecting, or how we are socially handling the loss. Are we isolating versus are we connecting? So this segment is social isolation versus social connection for your well-being. So I want you to understand that you have a choice while navigating loss. It is up to you, and that puts you in the driver's seat. You have the controls, and that's quite empowering, which you may not feel empowered, but you do have choice in whether you're going to socially isolate versus socially connect. Now, with COVID-19, people are being encouraged to be in isolation, in physical isolation. When COVID-19 when we first were struck with this, it was said to socially distance. And then wisely, the terminology changed because it is not healthy to socially distance. Thankfully, with technology, the phone, there are methods to stay socially connected. So instead, they said physical distancing is what people should be doing. And that does not mean socially distancing. But let's look at isolation. Isolation is withdrawing, detaching, in seclusion, hiding. And when you experience a loss, never mind COVID-19, which is a loss in itself, creating losses itself, but if you're experiencing other losses, loss due to death, loss due to job loss, family illness, etc., it may be a natural feeling, especially when it first occurs, to withdraw, to isolate. Because of loss, your essential needs may not be met anymore. So are your needs being met? I'm going to give you a little psychology 101. I think anybody that's learned psychology in university has been through this learning of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is stating is that there are different levels of needs that humans have. And in order to reach the higher levels, you have to have the needs of the lower levels being met. And at the very beginning, the first level is the physiological level, where can you breathe? Do you have food? Do you have shelter? Are you sleeping? Those kind of things. That's the first level. And then the second level is safety. Are you feeling secure in your body? So, if there's failing health, you may not feel safe. Or if you've lost your job for employment, you may have lost security and not feel safe. So your needs are not being met. So that's the second level. And experiencing loss may cause you to not have your that level of safety being met. And then there's that feeling of belonging, friendship, love, family, sexual intimacy. With the death of a spouse, you may really experience that loss, that need not being met. The higher ones, esteem and self-actualization, are also needs that may not be met, like loss of self-esteem, loss of confidence, loss of achievement. So if the needs are not being met, it would only be human that you feel the feelings, the negative, the distress that you are feeling. And so much more important for you to be kind to yourself at this time. So when your needs are not being met, it may leave you feeling lonely. And there are people who are loners, and they don't feel lonely. Their preference is to be alone. So you have to mark that distinction between, loners that want to be alone and people that feel lonely. There are people who like being alone. They may not be necessarily loners, but it can be a benefit to enjoy your own company. And that may be something that, you might want to develop. It could be a skill, if you can't do it now, to develop that skill of enjoying your own company. Then there are people who cannot be alone. And when they experience loss, let's say it's the loss of a spouse, they may jump in very quickly to replace that spouse so they are not alone. So these are things to watch for and to be cognizant of, because if you find yourself in a category where you could it could be better off on working on being alone more to just enjoy your own company. That takes practice. And so that may be something you may want to work on rather than jumping into something like if you lost your job, jumping into a new job, not because you like what the new job is offering you, but so that it replaces the job you left or maybe the job you got laid off from. But let's go back to feeling lonely. Talking about the feeling of being lonely. Feeling lonely is quite prevalent, and I think now that we are dealing with COVID-19, we can see that it's more prevalent, because especially for people that do live on their own. But even people who live with other people, you don't necessarily have to be alone to feel lonely. So assess that. Are you feeling lonely? Do you feel a lack of connection, belonging? Loneliness is painful. And we may not think of it as that, and it can create painful sensations. And it is a health risk. A researcher, Dr. Stephen Cole, let me quote him. He did National Institute on Aging supported research on the health risks of loneliness and isolation. And this is what I'm quoting him saying. Loneliness acts as a fertilizer for other diseases. The biology of loneliness can accelerate the buildup of plaque in arteries, help cancer cells grow and spread, and promote inflammation in the brain, leading to Alzheimer's disease. Who would think that, right? But this is from their research. Loneliness promotes different types of wear and tear on the body. People who feel lonely may also have weakened immune systems that have trouble fighting off viruses that makes them more vulnerable to infectious diseases. So if you assess feeling lonely, then this may be an area you may want to work on while you are navigating loss. In this image, it says people are lonely because they build walls instead of bridges. This may not be so applicable when we're talking about COVID-19 because it's beyond your control. But other than that, if you assess that you're not reaching out to people, you have chosen to withdraw and to isolate, and you have retreated, then you might want to look at that. You do have choice. There is some choice. So we looked at isolation. Let's look at connection. Now, connection is joining together, linking, uniting, and being associated with. It's really the opposite of isolation, isn't it? So, and here you do have a choice here and going with intention in navigating your loss is to make the intention to seek out ways to be more connected for your own well-being. So let's look at some ideas of how you can be more connected. Reaching out, joining a group. There are so many online groups now because, joining a group now to go somewhere, which is difficult, and it makes it more difficult in navigating loss. But the attempt to do it is really something that will be helpful and is assisting you. So, the group that you join is also important. If you like reading books, you might seek out a book club. You might ask a friend, maybe they know of a book club group, and that way you have a connection in joining a group. So join an interest group, because if you join a group that you're not interested in, I don't think you're going to get the benefit of the connection the way you would if it was something you were interested in. You might seek out spiritual support, a church, synagogue, temple, depending on your religion, or there's other spiritual means of getting involved in a group. There's also social media that can offer connection, but I would caution you about social media because you might, for the first time, let's say, go on Facebook and you look at all the different posts that people post, and you see people that look, a lot of times the pictures look happy and you may think, oh, these people have such good lives and my life isn't good. Like you compare your life with the posts on social media. That is not a good way to use social media as a connection. A good way to use social media as a connection is to find your friends, find people that are supportive, family, and it's a wonderful way to connect with people that live far away as well. And you can post pictures and kind of build a camaraderie with a group of your own. So that's a good way to use social media. Also, the phone. The phone is a great way because that's really the best way of, better than being there and seeing them in person. You speak to them and you have a voice. And you can also use online technology to connect with people and get together and talk. So, and also the frequency of connection is very important. You might want to do it daily, where you might reach out to a family member, a trusted family member, especially if you're not feeling like really being social. It may be a small circle, but getting connected with people that you trust and maintain that connection. Meeting up with somebody online once a month is just not going to do it, right? You need more connection. Neighbors are also good connections as well. And also accepting help. You may not be so quick or to accept help, but showing your vulnerability is not necessarily a weakness. It is a strength. So be receptive when others reach out to offer help. So that can be a really good way of connecting, is by really taking note, who are the people in my life that I really can trust, and who are the people in my life that have asked me, what can I do? Or, you might hear somebody genuinely saying to you, call me anytime, you want to talk. And maybe take them up on that. So that's a way to connect. So we've looked at isolation and connection. And what would you choose if it was a really close friend of yours that was going through a loss, a significant loss, and feeling distressed, would you recommend to them to isolate themselves, or would you recommend to them to be connecting and trying to make connections and to connect regularly? I think that you would say connect, because for your well-being, as I pointed out with the research on loneliness, that connecting is a way to combat that loneliness that you feel. So it's really up to you, isn't it? You hold the reins on this. You may not think so, but you do. You hold the reins on how you move forward in navigating loss. You have to have the intention of moving forward in a positive way rather than it being doom and gloom and in an isolating way. And connection is really a very, very important aspect of this. So, what have you decided? Are you going to connect, or are you going to isolate? Or what have you been doing? You might want to put into the chat box what you have been doing to connect and share that. That would be great. So, for me to prevent isolation as a self-employed social worker, I am grateful in my community for being part of a wonderful group called Connecting the Community. This is a unique group, like no other, that has been meeting weekly for over 10 years. We are fortunate today to have Marge Andre, the founder and facilitator of Connecting the Community, here now. And I am going to turn it over to you, Marge, to tell us more.